So this is my conversation with Brent Harris around tree stories. Thanks. I am thrilled to talk a little bit about trees and the influence trees have had on me from a young person to adult, as you can see. I'll start with background. I'll go way back. Mom and Dad had lots of trees on the lot in Northwest Calgary where I grew up, and I mean a lot. They planted trees in the mid-1950s, and our lot had mature trees as I was growing up as a young boy. So for example, my mom planted a weeping willow. She planted a mountain ash. She planted a green ash. We had cottonwood trees, to name but a few deciduous trees in the yard. Some chokecherry bushes, some raspberry bushes. So there's some bushes and some trees, but Mom also planted 4 beautiful blue spruce trees on the property that were very small to start with and grew into beautiful, large, mature spruce trees to give shade to the yard over the many years. So I grew up in an environment where trees were important to my parents, and they shared that love of trees with me. Then my folks were also active in the outdoors, so I went cross-country skiing and hiking in the mountains and canoeing in the mountains with my parents. And I learned even more about trees and grew to appreciate trees. I must admit, I have a soft spot for coniferous trees, which, as you might know, are the trees that have needles. So we're talking fir, pine, spruce, and my favorite conifers would be larch or tamarack trees, which grow at a bit of a higher elevation. And they have the unique distinction of shedding their needles in the fall. They turn a beautiful yellow and golden hue, and they shed their needles. So trees have always been kind of important to me, and I enjoy talking about them. But I'll switch gears a little bit and talk about how a certain tree, and actually it's a bush, influenced my love of trees and bushes. So I'm referring to Diamond Willow. Now, Diamond Willow is a very nondescript gray bark bush that grows throughout the prairies in Canada, usually close to a water source, a creek or a slough or a beaver pond, a wetland area, if you will. And it doesn't look like much. I have a piece here. This is a raw piece of Diamond Willow. It's very gray and the bark is quite non-distinct. And you can see a couple of places, I don't know if you can see or not, but it has nice little diamonds in the wood. So that's what a piece of rough Diamond Willow looks like. And this is what a piece of Diamond Willow looks like when you've worked it. In other words, you've shaved the bark off with a draw knife and used a Dremel tool and some wood carving tools to bring out the beautiful diamonds that you can see in the wood. So let me connect the Diamond Willow to my parents and grandparents. My grandfather was a World War I veteran, and as he aged, he required a mobility aid. So I made out of Diamond Willow a cane for my grandfather. And Diamond Willow has some beautiful pieces that have a right angle, as you can see. So it's a very effective handle for a cane. I made a Diamond Willow cane for my grandfather, my World War I grandfather, and he enjoyed it quite a bit. He enjoyed the practical use of the cane, but he also enjoyed showing it off and telling people that his grandson had made this cane for him. I still have that cane in my quiver, actually. Then as my father aged, he required mobility aids as well, but he was more in favor of a walking stick. So this is a Diamond Willow walking stick, and you can see it's much taller. It's very large. It's not like a cane, it's a walking stick. So it kind of comes up to shoulder height, and I've just put a piece of string on it for a wrist strap. But the interesting thing there is that, I discussed having a love of trees from a young person through to an adult. And then it was really magic to be able to create something for my grandfather and then for my father, for them to appreciate and use, actually get a physical benefit from in terms of a mobility aid for safety. And then they both enjoyed showing friends and people that they ran into the unique cane and walking sticks that they had made out of diamond willow, by the way, by their grandson or by their son. So I really enjoy making things out of diamond willow. And that's a few words I have about trees to start with. Trees are special. Trees have a great meaning for me in that my parents instilled a love of trees in me from a young age. We all understand that they convert CO2 from the atmosphere and give off oxygen, so they have a very practical component. But it's more of a deeper spiritual level for me. I feel at home and at ease in the out of doors. I always have. And I believe that it's trees and other components of the out of doors, like the water, like the mountains, like the plants, like the land, that make me appreciate the out of doors and make me appreciate trees. So I really quite enjoy the types of trees that I'm familiar with. For example, the lodgepole pine is another one of my favorite conifer trees. The lodgepole pine, as you may know, grows very straight. It doesn't have a lot of bends to it. It grows very straight. And indigenous First Nations people used it for their travois, for the sleds they built to haul things behind their horses. But they also used the lodgepole pine in constructing their teepees. They shed the bark, they dried the lodgepole pine, and they lashed them at the top to make the pyramidal exoskeleton of a teepee, if you will. So quite fond of lodgepole pines. In fact, I've had my own teepees over the years and have used lodgepole pines. So I guess I would say in summation around trees is I appreciate them for their beauty, for their intrinsic worth to the environment, and also for the spiritual connection or the wholesome connection that I feel I have with the out of doors and with the world through those trees. Some of my favorite types of trees over the years have made me appreciate what they are for us and what they do with us. Well, the most obvious tree story as a parent would be the beautiful cottonwood tree we had in our backyard with a nice branch over the yard that I built a swing for my kids on. So some old climbing rope and a little piece of plastic created a swing that my kids enjoyed countless hours of play on with the swing. So trees and swings and children, that's pretty fantastic. And obviously my girls understood that I had an appreciation and a love for diamond willow because they saw their great-grandfather and then their grandfather using the canes and the walking sticks that I made out of trees. My girls were also fascinated when I would make lockets and small pieces of jewelry out of diamond willow for them, for my wife, for other people, as little keepsakes and mementos. My girls came with me on trips to the mountains, canoeing and hiking and cross-country skiing, and we would stop and we would identify the types of trees we were going through, and talk about what kind of tree it was and why that kind of tree did well there. For example, one great story is where my parents lived in southwest Alberta in the Porcupine Hills. That area is known for having the oldest Douglas fir trees in the province of Alberta. I'm a tall man, I'm about 6'2", and it would take 3 or 4 of me to stand with my arms wrapped around a tree. So these Douglas firs are some of the largest trees in Alberta. Thanks for reminding me. As a grandfather, I hope to share my love of the outdoors and trees with my grandson in similar ways that my parents showed me their appreciation of trees and mentored me to understand and appreciate trees. So absolutely, like Johnny Appleseed planting the seed, I hope to plant that seed in my grandson and subsequent grandchildren to foster in them an appreciation for the out of doors and for the importance of any kind of trees. Steve, it's very simple And I think people might overlook the opportunity that we can all be mentors for young people, be it in our roles as parents or grandparents or great-grandparents. We have this experience in us, this life experience, this lived experience that we have. And we have an opportunity to share that knowledge and that experience with the next generations, with subsequent generations. So what better way to instill a love of the outdoors and an appreciation of trees, if you will, by sharing that knowledge and experience we have through a lifetime of experience with the next generation. It just makes so much sense. And it's almost like we're leaving a legacy of ourselves and our knowledge and our experience, mentoring the next generation. Well, appreciate what trees give us, and not just the lumber and the boards for our houses, but the Diamond Willow canes. And how about a wooden canoe paddle? How many of you use aluminum and carbon fiber paddles now? But what feels better than a true piece of wood in your hands? Beautiful piece of ash or a lovely piece of wood for canoeing. I will finish and I'll walk away from here and I'll have 10,000 things I'd like to say. So maybe we'll do another cut